it's Jeff Zito, and thank you for checking out another episode of the Celebrity Jobber Podcast. We take a look at celebrities and see what their path was when they were younger. Maybe they weren't really trying to become what we know them from. And my next guest is one of those people. You may know him from ESPN. He covers the NFL in the northeastern part of the country, especially Philadelphia. ESPN's Sal Paolantonio didn't start off wanting to be a sports reporter. He actually had a few different paths that led him to becoming a sports reporter. So many great guests that we've had on this podcast, which you can, by the way, check out on CelebrityJobber.com. What would Sal Paolantonio be doing if he wasn't covering the Philadelphia Eagles or the NFL for ESPN? Well, you might be surprised. Sal Pal is my guest this week on Celebrity Jobber.
The Celebrity Jobber Podcast with Jeff Zito. The Celebrity Jobber Podcast with Jeff Zito. If you like what you hear, please subscribe, give a 5-star rating, and leave a review. Check out all our past episodes on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you pod. What if these celebrities weren't famous? What would they have become? What was their first job? We're about to find out.
Jeff, how are you doing, brother?
I'm doing good, my man. I've been going through your history here, all the different jobs that you've had along the way. Tell me briefly about all of them, if you can. You go to college at SUNY in New York, and were you a journalism major? Is that what you wanted to do when you were in college?
Well, I practiced journalism at the school newspaper and on the radio station, but I was a history major.
A history major. Wow. So what did you have planned coming out of school? What did you want to do?
Originally, I wanted to be a lawyer, but I really fell in love with journalism. So NYU gave me a full fellowship into their journalism master's program, so I took it, where, they give you tuition and money for books and money for rent. So, I took that, and then, I went into the service after that. I went into the Navy.
Yeah, and explain to me what a surface warfare officer is in the Navy.
Right. Well, I can tell you right now, there's probably a lot of surface warfare officers listening to this program right now.
Really?
Retired or active. Yeah. It's that's the job that you have when you're on a surface ship and you're an officer in the Navy. You're called a SWO, a surface warfare officer. 1165 is your number, and they teach you to drive ships and give you different jobs on combatants.
Oh, wow.
All around the world. I was a navigator, I was a gunnery officer, I was an officer at the deck in the Sixth Fleet. Anybody who's in the Navy knows what they are. And there's I'm sure there's a lot of Navy guys listening to this show right now.
Absolutely.
The Celebrity Jobber Podcast with Jeff Zito.
So I wanted to share something quickly. Last month, I was getting near the end of the month, and I was getting kind of low on cash. So I heard about this Rocket Money, where it basically tells you about all your monthly bills and subscriptions. And there was stuff that I was paying for that I wasn't even using. I might have signed up for a free trial to watch something a few months ago, watched it, and then just kept paying for it. Nothing pisses me off more than throwing money down the drain. Well, thank God for Rocket Money, because this month I've spent 20% less than I did last month. And it was really easy to cancel some of those streaming subscriptions that I had no idea what the password was. Rocket Money did it for me. And you can use Rocket Money as a personal finance app. Not only cancels your unwanted subscriptions, but it monitors your spending and it helps lower your bills so you can grow your savings. So stop wasting money on things you don't use. Cancel your unwanted subscriptions by going to rocketmoney.com/jobber. That's rocketmoney.com/JOBBER. rocketmoney.com/jobber.
Celebrity Jobber.
And Sal, after the service, did you want a career in the service, or what did you do exactly when you got out?
Right. So, I loved the Navy. I love the military life, but, it's hard on families. It's hard on the separation was difficult for my wife. So I went back and became a reporter.
And were you a sports reporter? Was it automatically sports that drew you in, or were you writing about other stuff?
Yeah, I wrote about politics.
Okay. When did you transition into sports? Because that seems like it's a lot more fun, I would say, no?
In 1993.
And then they say the rest is history, right, Sal?
Sort of, kind of, yeah. I wrote for Philadelphia Inquirer, and ESPN came knocking on the door. And how do you turn that down?
Would you say the ESPN job was your big break, if you will?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
100%.
Put you in front of more people.
Job.
What was your very first job, Sal? Very first paying job? Before college, after college, what was it?
Oh, well, I've been working since I was 12 years old, mowing lawns and delivering newspapers and dishwasher, you name it.
That was it. First job was just mowing lawns or paper route?
Yep.
Tell me a little bit about your book, which is not a brand new book, but a new spin on a book that came out maybe a few years back.
Yeah, it's called How Football Explains America. Thanks for asking me about it. I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
And it's a look on how the game was created and why it was created and the cultural influences on the game over the years.
You talk about the cultural influences on the game and maybe how football helped break the color barrier, as, Major League Baseball gets a lot of credit for, Jackie Robinson. You tell us a little bit about your angle on how football kind of did that as well.
In what respect are you talking about?
Well, it says in your book, you went on to make a provocative claim. The origins of football rather than baseball help break down the color barrier in sports.
Right. So, if you look at the 20s and Jim Thorpe and Fritz Pollard, they were obviously Native American and African American influences in the 20s were really important in the game. And then there was a time where, early on when Jackie Robinson came into baseball, teams like the Los Angeles Rams put African Americans in the game, and so did the Cleveland Browns. And their influence on the game was so important.
Celebrity Jobber. The Celebrity Jobber Podcast with Jeff Zito.
Sal, can you tell me, I don't want to get you in trouble with the Eagles because I know that's your home team, but can you tell me a little bit about the collapse that the team had a little bit last season? When they came to Tampa Bay, we were a little worried about them, and the score, we blew them out. So can you tell me a little bit about what you think happened last year after just a year and a half ago? They were in the Super Bowl looking like one of the big teams. And was it the locker room, the coach? What do you think it was?
Well, it was a combination of factors. I think the number one factor was the quarterback was turning the football over. Jalen Hurts had only 8 turnovers when the team went to the Super Bowl 2 years ago. Last year, he had 20. Baker Mayfield only had 13. Baker Mayfield only had 10 interceptions.
Right.
So I think one of the biggest indicators every year of a team's success is turnovers by the quarterback. And then, too, they just had turnover in the defensive staff. They lost Jonathan Gannon. He went to coach in Arizona. They hired Sean Desai. He didn't work out. They elevated Matt Patricia. He didn't work out. So they basically went through 3 defensive coordinators in the span of about 12 months. And it really showed. Players weren't put in the right place. There was a lot of confusion, lack of communication. And, now they've got Vic Fangio in there, and I think that will be a major improvement. Yeah,
how they look this summer? Have you gone to a lot of workouts this summer?
It's hard to really judge how they will do based on helmets and shorts. That's tough.
A lot of pressure, though. A lot of pressure this year, wouldn't you say?
This pressure definitely on the Eagles this year, 100%, especially on Nick Sirianni. I think he's definitely on the hot seat.
Sal, it says you're also were you also a professor? You teach journalism at St. Joseph's University. Is that still going on these days?
No, I teach now at a play-by-play broadcasting, where I try to teach young people how to do the job right.
Very challenging for young people getting into the business these days. Would you agree?
Yeah, super competitive. Very hard.
What would be your best advice to somebody young listening to this that wants to get into journalism?
Read everything. Be curious about everything. Be very open-minded. Be agreeable to doing all sorts of jobs. Try to find a job in the business or a position in the business that will give you an opportunity to do a lot of different things, because the more you can do, the more you can do. So I would think those are the top. And then, go to school with an eye on learning lots of different things, whether it be history or English, math, science, art. Find something that will really challenge you intellectually, because that's what this job does.
And a backup plan, do you think that's necessary too?
Yeah. You got to have a backup plan, man, for sure. 100%.
Did you have one, Sal Pal?
I did. I couldn't tell you off the top of my head exactly what it was, but, I left newspapers and went to ESPN and on a one-year contract. So I was out there without a net.
You believed.
The Celebrity Jobber Podcast with Jeff Zito. Celebrity Jobber.
How Football Explains America, the book from Sal Paolantonio. So great to have the opportunity to talk to you today, Sal Pal. Thanks so much.
Oh, God, I was really happy to talk to you. I was excited when I saw that I was getting a chance to talk to you guys. I come to Tampa St. Pete all the time. Coming to Saddlebrook for years. My wife loves going to the Sand Pearl over there in Clearwater Beach.
Awesome.
We'd like to spend time watching spring training baseball. My mom's in a nursing home in Lakeland, Florida, so my brother and I are always flying through Tampa Airport and on our way to visit her. When my parents retired, they retired in Tampa, and lots of my aunts and uncles. It's a place that I've always called a home away from home. I think it's a wonderful, wonderful place.
I agree. Well, look forward to seeing you at the, hopefully the Eagles and the Bucks play this year, so hopefully you'll be down here.
Thanks for having me on, Jeff. I really appreciate it, man.
Take care, brother. Super nice guy, Sal Paolantonio. Sal Pal, his nickname, if you will. If you watch a lot of ESPN, you watch a lot of football, you'll notice that they go to Sal Pal up in Philly or anywhere up in the Northeast. It looks like that's kind of where he covers the NFL. And he's been doing this for a long time. His transition into sports, 1993. Before that, he was doing political journalism. So I would think that sports a lot more fun than politics, especially if you're watching the news these days. Doesn't seem like a whole lot of fun any way you want to look at it. His first job, didn't really have a first job, if you will. He said that it was just around town, mowing lawns, kind of doing stuff like that when he was younger. But he was a military man. He got into the military when he was younger. And, that's hard on families. He actually, progressed, went up through the ranks in the military. He said he wanted to become a lawyer. That was really what his first goal was. And then as he went through college, he said he kind of fell in love with journalism. So after the military, he started doing political journalism. And then, of course, his big break is ESPN, which we could all imagine getting that phone call from the worldwide leader, definitely going to put you on the map. And it did. I think Sal is a really cool dude because he was a history buff. So he studied history in college in New York and actually currently has a gig teaching in college, a professor of play-by-play broadcasting. I thought that was pretty cool. And, he gave some advice to younger people that are trying to get into broadcasting these days. Super competitive. It's really hard. When you're an old guy like me and Sal, who have been doing this for a long time, you see how the younger generation that tries to get into this business, it's really, really hard for them. There's not as many opportunities now like there was when we were coming in. And his advice to young people wanting to get into broadcasting, be agreeable and find something that will enable you to do a lot of different things. You know, whether it's driving the van, holding a camera, you got to start somewhere. I thought it was really great advice. And in the broadcast/journalism profession, you got to do a lot of different gigs. Like, as you know, Sal Paolantonio from ESPN, and he's talking football on NFL Sundays. But he's also, like I mentioned, a professor. He has a lot of different little jobs in the field. Same with me. I do a radio show in 4 different cities. I do his podcast. Definitely not an easy profession, but Sal Pal, he became famous from doing it. Check out his previously released book, How Football Explains America, a fascinating first-of-its-kind journey through the making of America's most complex, intriguing, and popular game. Follow him on X or Twitter at Sal Paolantonio or on Instagram, Sal Pal ESPN. Great guy, cool story, so many different directions, and still has a lot of different jobs. Thank you for checking out another episode of the Celebrity Jobber podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts. Please subscribe. Would love a 5-star rating, and please leave a review. Past episodes on celebrityjobber.com, and you can follow us on Instagram, celebrityjobber_podcast, and youtube.com/the@celebrityjobber. Just past the 100 episode mark. Here's to another 100. Thanks so much for listening. We'll see you next week. I'm Jeff Zito.